Okay. All right. So, thank you so much for sharing your Thursday lunch hour with me to both learn and share your experiences with emailing participants. Um, I chose this topic for our June training after reviewing the results of the facilitator survey that you all filled out a couple of months ago from Jen Grant. One of the common themes was participant retention and engagement. Um, and just one way to increase retention and engagement is through our follow-up and reminder emails. Um, so each email serves as an extension of the previous session and a bridge to the next. So our shared goals for today's training are to review just how many emails we are sending out for each of our workshops, to confirm who sends which emails, to review email formats and content specific to fostering a welcoming, inclusive, and supportive workshop, to share examples for each self-management program, which will be interactive. So I'm hoping folks have some examples to share, uh, and then allow room for questions and feedback. And just feel free to stop me at any point if anybody has any questions. Um, So let's quickly cover just how many emails we are sending. So you'll see here is an estimate of the number of emails we send to participants enrolled in each workshop. So these numbers vary by curriculum organization. If follow-up and reminder emails are sent as two separate emails, and includes a small buffer for those one-off emails and or replies to participants' questions when they reach out to us. Um, this also includes welcome emails, session zero reminders, and post-workshop survey reminders. So all these emails are opportunities to further the discussion, encourage success with positive affirmations, and keep participants engaged with the contents. With that said, as facilitators, we are not expected to spend hours upon hours outside of our sessions communicating with our participants and typing emails. Nor are we expected to become email marketing geniuses. One tip is to help save time, though, is to save your emails in a Word document for easy copy, pasting, editing as you create new ways to engage via email. So as you can see for quit smoking, there's roughly 6 to 10 emails. Blood pressure management is 9 to 17. Chronic pain, age 12. Chronic disease, age 12. Diabetes management, 10 to 14. And the DPP being 27 to 35 total emails. So who sends all of these emails? The short version is it's a team effort between the My Healthy Vermont program staff, facilitators, and co-facilitators. We get all the information out to participants from enrollment, the end of the program, survey reminders. So the My Healthy program staff send out welcome emails, the session zero reminder, and also help with the end of program survey reminders. And then facilitators are expected to send the weekly session follow-ups, attendance check-ins, action plan check-ins, if it's part of your program, session reminders, and completion and thank yous at the end. So let's get into the setup of the things every email should have and formatting we should all be following. The first being blind carbon copy or BCC. All participant email addresses should be entered here as to not share participant emails with the other participants without their consent. Should a participant use the reply all feature, which they do sometimes, if you have put all the emails in the BCC field, if they reply all, their replies will not go to the participants. With that, in the to field, you have to put something there if you're not putting the participant emails there. Enter your own email address, as well as your co-facilitator, if you have one. A note about the to field, when putting your email address there, just make sure that you're choosing the email that you prefer your participants to know. So if you're using your work email versus your personal email, just make sure that you're consistently using the one that you want your participants to be able to contact you at. The subject line. Subject lines can be a great way to catch participant attention. Choose what you prefer, but make sure that you're keeping it consistent throughout the entire workshop so it's easy for participants to search and find the email again. So you can make them snazzy, funny, add some personality if you want, but it's just important to keep it consistent. For the greeting, we try to use non-gendered group-focused greetings, such as everyone, folks, participants, or even y'all. Anything that just isn't ladies, gentlemen, guys, hey girls, things like that. This makes it a little more inclusive and not around gender. Let's see, consider, I am very guilty of this one. I don't know if anybody else here has ever sent an email that you said you had attachments on, but you didn't actually attach them before hitting send. So consider adding your attachments before reaching the end of your email so you don't hit send without them. Font. Some tips here are keep it clean, easy on the eyes, and avoid colors if possible. Squiggly, cursive, artsy fonts should not be used. Sometimes that looks great on our screen, but may not be easy to read on another device. Again, for consistency, use the same font throughout not only the entire email, but for every email that you send throughout the workshop. Using bold type is really helpful to highlight important pieces of information or change the topic. This helps the reader find specific content easily as well. And then for consistent formatting and including vital repeat information, such as the Zoom link, date and time of the workshop, or the link to the check-in forms. Keep them toward the bottom of the email, which makes room for your new content that week to be right at the top. Think of your email notifications either at work, on your laptop, or your phone. Think of those notification pop-ups that you see that have a little preview of the email to kind of help keep participants engaged, allowing your newer content to pop up in that field rather than the beginning of your Zoom link each week. Any questions about any of those before we move along? Or even any tips or things that you would add? I'll pause for a second because I can't actually see anybody. Hearing none, we'll move along. So this is a sample format of exactly what we just talked about. So for here in the to field, I have myself and my co-leader. In the blind BCC, I have my participants. In my subject line, I tend to use the name of the workshop, followed by what number session it is, and then if it's reminder or follow-up. And then my signature, keeping it really simple. Just my name, my first name, and a link to the My Healthy Vermont website. You're welcome to put, if you're okay with your participants knowing your office line or your cell phone number. It's really whatever you're comfortable with, but just keeping it simple. Okay. So specifically for session 0 through 2, we'd like to always encourage participants to invite someone who may also enjoy the workshop if there is still room in the workshop. So just adding a blurb, with the example here being, we also still have room available to welcome new participants, and they can join up through the next few weeks. If you know of anyone who would like to join us, please share the course info with them, and we will get them started. And then also including a warm invitation to return to the workshop. So if somebody enrolled, you have them on your roster, but maybe they didn't show up to session 0 or session 1, just continuing to include them in those emails, and just as a warm invitation that they are still welcome to come, even if they missed the first couple of sessions. So now let's look at formatting the body of your email. After reading a bazillion different email formats from our facilitators specific to these programs, I created this acronym to help us remember both the flow and the content of our emails. So TERRY stands for thanks, encourage, review, remind, and introduce. So diving in, first, thanking the participants for joining the previous session, and try to switch up the phrasing throughout the duration of the workshop. Saying thank you in the same exact way might get a little redundant and boring, and we do want to try to keep it fresh each week. Oops. Sorry if I made you dizzy there. Encourage participants by congratulating them on taking this step on creating a healthy future or carving out time for themselves and wins along the way. Review the material from the previous session by highlighting a couple of pieces of the curriculum and including specific examples and personal shares that came up during the session. If you do include personal shares or things that do come up, try to switch up who, if you are highlighting a specific participant or what they said, make sure to switch it up and include things from all of your participants, or just keep things very general and not include names at all. Did someone have a question? And then remind participants about any homework, chapters to read, to do their weekly check-ins, and their action plans. And then finally, introduce. So introduce the next week's session, then what number session it is, what the title of the session is, like eating away from home. We'll be discussing eating away from home. Please bring along a food label. Again, just to stay consistent, if you call your program DPP always type or say DPP. Whereas if you call your program Prevent T2, try to always call it Prevent T2 in your emails as well, so there's no confusion. And then including any links. If there are any, like, again, with DPP, there are links, the CDC website, the links for your check-ins, if you're doing your weekly check-ins that way with weight and activity minutes and such. And then your Zoom link at the bottom before your signature. So this is an example from one of our DPP master trainers, Cynthia. So specifically to the diabetes prevention program, this was an example of her thanks and encouragement, which often are combined into that very first paragraph. So Cynthia says, "Thank you all for the lively and inspiring discussion this week. I am so energized by how you have all taken the topics we have talked about over the past few weeks and made them your own. Your choices for new recipes, portion sizes, mindful eating, and fitting activity into your routines are all part of the healthy futures you are creating. Congratulations. Keep going." That is just one example of doing the thanks and encouragement for DPP. So this is where we can kind of brainstorm together what some of those thanks and encouragement paragraphs can look like. So I have a slide for each. Oops. Bear with me here. I'm going to make this a little smaller. I remove my notes. Do we have anyone here who is trained in DPP? I saw a lot of faces before. I'm wondering, does anybody have an example that they would like to share of how they use thanks and encouragement already in your follow-up emails or session reminders? I see Cynthia joined us as well. I don't know if there's another one off the top of your head, Cynthia. Oh, you are muted.
Yep, I have to unmute. I think I think one thing when you think about the thanks and encouragement, if you can zero in on something that they talked about, like if somebody brought up a new recipe, then bring that up. And I think it reminds people how the group discussion went, especially for people who missed the class. There may be some ideas that came up. So when we thank them, if we can thank them specifically, either for maybe an action they took during the week that they told us about, or a part of their action plan or something, the more individual we can make it, I think it's helpful. And then as long as I'm talking, I just want to tell you that first slide about the formatting, I thought that was so helpful. Thank you so much for that. Just simple concepts that you maybe don't think of as you're constructing emails to send out.
Thank you, Cynthia. I'm glad you find that helpful. Okay. Anybody else who's trained in DPP have any thoughts about thanks and encouragement, or really any other pieces of an email that are specific to that program?
I'd like to just put in a plug for all the DPP leaders that are out there, and everyone's doing so well with doing this. And I know it's obnoxious to ask for data, but putting that link into however, you're collecting your data or reminding them to report their data is so important when we're trying to show our efficacy and maintain our funding. It's the back end piece that people don't see. So I wanted to say thank you for everyone that's putting that in your emails. And if you aren't, please do.
Thank you, Vicki. And Caitlin put in the chat, I believe there are also templates for the DPP. I know Walter has mentioned how helpful they are as sessions taper off and you're looking for email content to keep in touch. Yes, thank you so much for that reminder, Caitlin. What about diabetes management? I know I saw a couple folks who are trained in the diabetes management workshop. Any ideas there on how to keep the content fresh or how to maybe an example of thanks and encouragement? And what about blood pressure management? Is there anything that jumps out about the content? Again, I see a couple faces of folks who are trained in blood pressure management as well. Anything jump out? Just thinking about the curriculum for blood pressure management, of what can be used for thanks and encouragement or ways to keep it fresh in your emails.
I think, again, encouraging each participant to and thank them for sharing what they have shared and sharing their ideas.
I had one workshop where one of the participants was super psyched about the recipe book. And every week they would come back and they would report on the recipe that they tried. And that got other people really interested in trying the recipes. So at least for that one, that might be a fun way to just kind of get people to expand and be thinking about the material outside of class.
I agree with both of those comments. I like the idea of focusing on something that came up in conversation that was significant for our participants. And when that happens, it gets the other participant excited and be like, oh, I didn't know that. And so they look into it further and look for different resources. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stacey. What about chronic pain or chronic disease? Anything come up during those workshops that can really get people motivated or inspired to keep coming back? Any particular sessions that are easier to keep people engaged with versus another? Or we can even talk about a challenge. I'm not personally trained in the chronic pain or the chronic disease self-management workshops, but I'm wondering if there's a particular week, let's say with chronic pain, is there a particular session that's a little trickier to get folks engaged even during the session? Some of those weeks where your participants are just not opening up. They're not chit-chatting about any part of the content. Is there what can we do in the email, maybe the session reminder beforehand to get people a little more excited or engaged in a quieter session?
I haven't had that experience, but what I have found is that people really like the visualization exercises. So those 2 weeks seem to be really popular, the 2 times that we do those in both workshops.
That called the mindfulness. I forget what the title of that session or
I think it's week 3 and week 4, but I don't remember the session titles.
we're all gonna watch Nicole struggle to spell. Anybody else? Are there, I'm not sure who's trained in what, but for chronic pain or chronic disease, are there weeks that are just quieter, harder to get folks to engage in conversation within the sessions?
Hey, Nicole, it's Amy Rainville. So I feel like with chronic pain, I'm racking my brain to think the last time I led the workshop, where were those challenges? Where were people more standoffish? And I don't know that it's necessarily, from what I've observed, content specific, but with chronic pain, people are either having an okay day or they're having a bad day. So when they show up, even when they're having a bad day, I feel like that speaks for, as far as chronic conditions go, that speaks really highly of their dedication and their commitment to the workshop, even when they're really struggling and maybe they have to keep going off camera or they have to lie down. I think we've had people fall asleep, just because they have to get comfortable and they end up falling asleep. But life with chronic pain is exhausting, and encouraging people and acknowledging that they are still showing up is one of the biggest things that I can think of. Because I think I was trying to think, like, the weeks where we talk about depression management, I don't even know if that's necessarily hard, or the communication. I feel like when people are in this workshop and they're engaged and they're participating, it doesn't, I can't think of a content that holds them back necessarily, as more like a general thing. It's just their condition that keeps them from having the energy to show up that day. But even when they're really struggling, people do. And I think that's pretty huge.
That's a wonderful example, Amy. Thank you. I think that's important. Probably, for all of the workshops, right? Is just acknowledging that they're having that everybody's going to face challenges, and the fact that they are and still making that time and being dedicated to the program is really important to acknowledge to keep them going. I saw Cynthia, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think for all of the workshops, because it's easy to show up when things are going well. And like for the DPP, if you have a week where you stayed on your food plan, you kept your tracker, you lost a pound, you took a walk, then you want to show up because you're feeling good about it. But when you're off track and you still come, instead of saying, well, I'm going to wait another week until I do better, It's more important than ever that you come on a bad week, and it's harder than ever. So what a great thing to recognize and to thank people and encourage them for in any of the formats, the stop smoking or any of them. It's hard to show up when you're not staying on track.
Thank you, Cynthia. Absolutely. So how can we, I think that's just something really important to keep in mind as we kind of set the stage even. And maybe even something important to add a piece about that to session 0. In session 1, it's just reminding folks that those challenges might happen. They will happen. There's no might, right? And continuing to show up even through the hard days will be so important. And thank you, Amy added in the chat, also reflecting on how they support one another, because pain can be isolating and the folks in the group really benefit from this sense of community. Absolutely. Thank you, Amy.
I have a question about chronic pain. Are there sessions where it talks about the different activities that people can do to help them that would cause less pain? Like I'm thinking about swimming. Do they get referrals from their doctor where they could, go and do something like that, an activity, because it's very relaxing and there's no weight, on the body. And so I just didn't know if there's like a chapter or something like that.
I can answer that or try to, if you'd like, Nicole. So it's funny you mentioned swimming, Stacy, because the last workshop that I co-facilitated, the group really got excited about saltwater pools, and there was sharing of information, and everyone was excited because they wanted to go try it. I don't know how many people actually had the opportunity to during the workshop, but the activities specifically, I feel like it mostly comes from brainstorms. I might not be remembering specific lists, but for the most part, since it's all peer-led, a lot of the activities will come from brainstorming as a group. So they'll come from the participants. And in sense of activity, we do talk about pacing and planning, and not so much the specific activities, but how to go about being active to not overdo it and to recognize how hard you're exerting yourself. So we talk about the talk test and the perceived rate of exertion in some way or another. I might be mixing up the workshops now, but in the chronic pain one specifically, it's more of a how to do what you love without overdoing. And then there's the Moving Easy program, which is a specific stretching, gentle movement, seated and some standing. It's about 16 minutes, and it's just to help increase blood flow. So that's basically my overview of how activity is presented in that workshop specifically, but I don't know if anybody else remembers more than that.
Thanks, Amy. Stacy, did that answer your question? Yeah, perfect. Did anybody else who leads chronic pain want to add anything? Well, moving along to one last kind of brainstorm. For the quit smoking program, do we have anybody here? Yeah, there's like at least a couple, right, that are trained in quit smoking. Again, a program that I'm not trained as a facilitator for, but I'm wondering, thanks and encouragement for quit smoking. What are you folks already doing? And is there a requirement to send session follow-ups and reminders for quit smoking like there are the other self-management programs?
Nicole, I'll jump in. So I'm not aware of, a structured requirement for follow-ups. I know when I was leading those workshops, I would always send the Zoom, like anytime you're leading an online workshop, I feel like a weekly Zoom link refresher, because if you stick it somewhere, I get 60 plus emails a day. I can't find it when I'm looking for it, especially if it was 3 weeks ago, right? So I love to send them every week. I think that's just good practice for any online workshop. I always send encouragement, because even if people aren't ready for change, and we ran into this in our chronic disease workshop that just finished up, there are people who aren't ready to make changes in their life yet, but they keep showing up. And so that is enough of a step to, warrant kudos for sure. So I always, acknowledge showing up and any progress that they have shared, or even if they've started sharing with the group, and just the support that they've given, that I've seen them give each other, because there usually is some.
Wonderful. Anything else anybody would add? Any tips, tricks, or experience with encouraging the folks who are attending the Quit Smoking workshop? That is our shortest workshop. And I will just add, Amy added in the chat that follow-up emails for the Quit Smoking program are at 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year as check-ins after the workshop ends. Thank you, Amy.
That's how it used to be. It's been out of the game for a minute, but and I don't know whose requirement that was, so other people might have different processes, but I also like to encourage people normalizing that even if they didn't get to where they wanted to be at the end of this workshop, that's 4 weeks is a very small span of time in the course of a lifetime of use, or however long they've been using nicotine products, and pushing them to join another one, making it very normalizing, just that it's okay to sign up for another workshop, maybe not right away, or maybe right away, but just that a lot of people do it and find the support very helpful, or to continue to find support, and as just reiterating that it's a life. I mean, like all of these workshops, I guess, is that it's a lifelong, we're talking habit changes. So it's management, it's not like it's fixed. So just reminding folks in a normalizing way and hopefully encouraging, maybe not the exact way I said it.
Oh, that was great, Amy. Thank you. Anybody else? We have about 20 minutes left. Anybody else for any of the programs, think of anything through these conversations that you wanted to add to any of the programs? All right, before we get social, any questions, comments about any of the content that we covered today? Yeah, Pam, go ahead.
I am just finishing up with DPP, and this would have been wonderful at the beginning. Seeing the structure of the email and trying to engage, because my class started off with 13 and I ended up with a solid core of 7 people. I think now seeing the structure of these emails and the encouragement, etc., I think moving forward, if I get a situation like this again, I'm better prepared. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pam. And I think 7, I was exactly gonna say that, Amy. Amy said in the chat, that's solid retention, Pam. And yeah, 7 is great. So congratulations, whatever you're doing is working, but of course, we can all try little things to keep that engagement and retention even better. Any other questions, comments? Any slides you want to see again? I think, of course, this is being recorded, so you will be able to view it again. If anybody wanted the copy of the slides, I'm happy to send that out as well. Before we part ways today, I will, of course, ask everyone again and forever if you're not already following the My Healthy Vermont Facebook page, to please do so. We have been sharing each of the workshops as they become scheduled on the My Healthy Vermont website. We are also creating a Facebook event for them. So if you are on Facebook and you see that the workshop that you're leading, or any of the workshops, you see the event, go ahead and give it a share with your friends and family. So the QR code is there. I'll leave that up for the duration. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you have any ideas for the next training session, another topic that you really want to hear about, learn more, hear from the other facilitators around what they're doing on a particular topic, would love to hear from all of you what you want to hear for the next training, which will come up sometime in late August, maybe early September. Just give me a shout. My email is here, and Cunningham@nmc.inc.org. I always forget the ink. Well, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the cooler weather.
Thanks, Nicole. It's great.
Take care, everybody.
Nicole,
Uh,
have you heard anything about our
hold on just a sec.
DSMP? There we go. Couldn't think of the acronym.
No, hold on just a sec.
Yep.
Hey, Caitlin. I think we're still recording. Hold on just a sec. I'm gonna hang up. I'll give you a call, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.